All right, everybody, welcome to the Pro Physique Code. And what a crazy weekend we had in DC.
To put it mildly.
Yes. Ben Weider blew up
Yeah.
in a good
Yeah.
way, in a good way. Um, and you know what's funny? I've been going to these shows for whatever, more than a decade now. You can tell how busy a show is when you walk into the lobby of the host hotel. And I got there pretty early on Friday, or sorry, Thursday, because the show was Friday. Thursday, walking into that host hotel, it was like buzzing with people everywhere.
Lines for the elevators.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh. So that's a whole story. Elevators was a whole story.
that's
Yeah.
the worst. I've been to shows before like that where it's like you just have to factor in, all right, I'm gonna need probably 5 minutes to just wait
Oh,
for
well,
the elevator.
I'll tell you my like panic attack story. But the hotel's 30 stories
Oh, okay.
and it has four elevators for the guests. Two of those elevators inoperational.
Oh, that is
Makeup,
the
the
worst.
makeup artists were somewhere on like the 20th floor.
Mm.
So can you imagine all the people going in and out of makeup to the room up and stairs, downstairs?
Oh, well, no, no, Paul, you couldn't go up and down the stairs at this hotel. That
No,
was
no,
the
no, no. I meant like going up and down the elevators to get to the makeup floors.
but you didn't have the ability to
Oh,
walk down
No.
the levels because it was only emergency exits outside. So you couldn't walk from
so
the 30th to the 29th floor. You had to get on the elevator.
that reminds me in the old place I used to live in, my old apartment. It was one of the only sky rises in the area, and like I was on the 16th floor, and all the time there were three elevators for the whole building. I think there were 23 floors, and all the time there was always one that was out. And yeah, it was that same concept. For some reason, like you couldn't use the stairs because I tried that one time. I tried to go up the stairs, but then when you would get up there, you needed like a key. So, but it was so annoying. There was always one that was broken, and then you have to literally just sit there and wait, and it's just such a nuisance.
It's just, yeah. So this show was, I think, unexpectedly large, especially on the female side for the promoter. When I was having my athletes go to check-ins, I was asking them like, "Oh, how many people are in your class?" And they were telling me like 25, 30, and I'm like in bikini and I'm like, "Whoa, okay. Is that with crossovers?" And then someone said there's 300 female competitors on Friday and I'm like, "Whoa, okay." So, yeah, and true to form, it was they haven't released the NPC News Online hasn't put out the competitor placings for the NPC portion of the show. I believe this was the largest national show of the year for bikini for open.
And I'll say this, like when they say numbers like 300, there's a difference between like 300 firm, like strong, like 300 body,
Yeah,
or 300 with crossovers. This seemed like there were 300 individual
there was
competitors.
absolutely at least 300 competitors because we did not finish prejudging till 6 p.m.
Yes, I know. I remember texting you, Paul, and I was like, "What do you think final?" Well, this was earlier in the day, but I was like, "What do you think for Fit Model finals? What time? 6 p.m." And then they didn't even start finals until what, like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
It
The model
was
took almost 3 hours.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why Fit Model would be so big too at a natural show, because I mean, not that it's quote unquote a natural, like it's advertised as a natural division, but I would say a lot of competitors who are natural do gravitate towards Fit Model. So yeah, I love to
Yep.
see that. That's awesome that it was such a great turnout and
Well,
such a
and I'll say this too, like the figure division has died at NPC shows. It is very much
Ooh,
alive in natural NPC.
and
It looked great.
impressive.
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
That I reached over and I looked at Paul and said, this to me, this is what figure is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very feminine, beautiful. The girls were in incredible shape. So many impressive physiques up there that it's tough
Yeah.
to believe they were even natural. Like they were incredibly
Well, to
impressive.
be fair, the overall winner looked like a figure Olympian.
Yeah,
Wow.
incredibly impressive.
Yep.
And
So it
a good number of them too. Like,
that's what I was talking about because you know
yeah.
how many shows I've been to this year where the figure overall winner was like out of four girls.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're like,
That
man,
that is very common. And that's
they spent more money on that trophy than they got on the entries for figure.
right. No, I totally agree with you. No, I was seeing some of the pictures of like some of the figure competitors on like because Battle Up Media, I think was covering the show. And I was like, I had to do a double take at some of them. I was like, oh my God, and they're natural athletes like that. It's
Yeah.
just so impressive.
Yeah, especially now in today's age where like it's so easy to get stuff, and a lot of people are on stuff. We just associate anybody that looks pretty dang good as, but you go back to the sport a few years and what people were doing naturally. There are great athletes out there that are lifting
Absolutely.
weights, and you guys, we see them every day in the gym. We just probably assume they're on stuff, but um, when you've been around the sport a long time, you realize there's just some fantastic genetics and work effort that go
Yeah.
into that. So it was, I don't know, I was not expecting it to be big because the largest show of the year for natural bodybuilding was on the same day in LA, the WNBF Worlds. So I thought, oh, that's going to pull a lot of those competitors away. It did not. It did not.
Interesting. I did not even know that. Yeah, and I didn't even interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that that was the same day.
And I'll
Yeah,
say
and
this
last
also
year they were
goes,
on different days. So I thought, oh, last year Ben Weider was so big because there was, they were able to do both shows. Um, yeah, so let's dig into the weekend a little bit. Lexi, you had a fever, didn't end up coming up there.
Yeah, I well, so I yeah, I didn't go, but yeah, you wouldn't have probably wanted me to be there. I mean, I can function when I'm sick, but I would not want to be around people when I'm sick. Yeah, I actually did wake up on what was it? Because gosh, on Saturday night when you and I were texting Paul after the Fit Model Finals, like I had like fallen asleep. I had to set my alarm to like wake me up every like 10, 15 minutes to keep up with updates because I was struggling a little bit. But yeah, it was a good day after that.
Yeah, and so what's nice is me and Evan got in nice and early so that we were able to get in the gym with most of the competitors and train. And then they had a posing room there, which was nice. And then we accidentally became the jerks because we were in there for like an hour because we had like 17 people come through.
like 17, 20 people, yeah.
And then there was people waiting and we didn't even realize it. We're like, oh, sorry. So we let them in. But DMV Iron, awesome gym. It's in Alexandria. I'll say this about the venue. The venue to the gym to surrounding things, so easy to get to. The hotel to the airport, super easy. So, we talk a lot about why some people don't do shows in like Charleston or Chattanooga. This is another show where, A, you've got a good population of competitors in that Northeast area. People can drive from New York, from Connecticut, from, like these, you know, states in the East, even Boston. I met somebody who drove from. Um, and even like Pittsburgh, people drove from. But also, if you're flying in, you fly in. It was like a $15 Uber to the hotel, and another $5 or $10 to the gym and back. So it was not bad.
And anything it's a easy, quick flight. So many direct flights there too. And then a $15 and 15-minute Uber ride to the hotel from the airport. They also had a bunch of other hotels that were close to them as well. So if the host hotel sold out, there were other opportunities around. That's things that make people show up for shows. Make it easy to get to. Make it the venue was inside the hotel. There was plenty of room. The seating was huge. And that's another thing to mention is how big the audience area was of that show, and it was packed in there. Like there was more people in the crowd there than I've seen at any other national show this year.
Yeah. 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 It's a very favorable kind of environment. A lot of support, a lot of families, friends being there. Um, just a successful show. Probably, I'm trying to think if there was a show this year that I felt that was as successful as this one, and I don't think there was.
The only other one I can think of that had a crowd size that big at prejudging was like the Pittsburgh Natural had a very large crowd at the prejudging for that one too. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
the,
Pittsburgh was interesting because you had open bodybuilding there. So there was a lot of people in town for that whole expo and all that, and they were around for yeah, that was a great show. That was a massive theater.
That was, yeah, that was a cool show. And I think it's going to be way bigger again, like way bigger this year. Like I'm excited to go to that show, or not this year, but this upcoming year.
Yeah,
Me too.
I think, you know, I'm just curious, and maybe I can get your perspective from a female perspective, because the male side of this Ben Weider did not get bigger, but the
Okay.
female side was much bigger. Um, there was in Masters Bikini 35A 26 and B 25. In like open bikini D or E, there was like 33. And I think the smallest bikini class was over 20.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, competitive. Like these are
I love
good competitors.
Yeah, I love to hear this because this is like a couple weeks ago we were talking about how, back in, I don't say back in the day, but like 5+ years ago at national shows, like it was an honor for girls to get first call outs. You'd hear girls like super excited to get first call outs. And it's like now sometimes there is only one call out, like getting first call outs doesn't always mean as much. But like now it reminds me of like these numbers, the shows back to how they used to be, where it was like it was an honor to get in that top five or in that first, call out. So, yeah, it just makes me really happy to see that.
And these calls were big. I mean, they're 8 to 10 in the first call outs and then full second call outs and then third call outs. Like these are not little tiny call outs of people. These are honestly probably almost too many people in the first call outs, if I'm going to have any gripe about it. And that's not because they didn't have enough people, right? These were big classes all the way around.
Yeah. Stage presence came in really big because when you put 10 people on a stage, I had a girl, it's her fault. I had to talk with her after. I said, yeah, you posed yourself out of contention. You were not posing towards the judges. You were posing away from them. And so,
Yep,
Mhm.
I absolutely
um,
that too.
yeah. And so it was fun to witness like, okay, these are actually, because not for nothing, like some of these national shows that I've been going to, the class A has like 7 girls. They just walk out and get in the line. Um, that didn't happen here. So it's exciting to see like the volume of competitors um, at this level because the other nice thing is they gave out 2 pro cards. Two, not two per class, not class winners, 2 pro cards. So why do I think that's important? Because you're not taking 16 of these competitors and putting them in the pro league and shrinking the sport. All these girls that just got second in their class or even won their class but didn't get their pro card in the overall because there was 6 in the overall, only 2 got their pro card. What do you think they're all thinking about right now?
They're going to
Pittsburgh,
nationals now.
Pittsburgh, right? They're all going to be coming around and staying in the sport. Whereas if you give 16 pro cards away, now you just shrunk the whole division, the NPC bikini division, by another 16 competitors. And so
Right.
if I had my way with the NPC right now, I would be like, pull back the pro cards. Junior USAs, give out 2. Junior nationals, give out 4.
Yeah.
National shows, I would even like if they all gave out 2 or 4. Like it's just,
Yeah.
especially when you have less than 100 competitors, giving out 16 pro cards, it's a little ridiculous.
It is.
Most should be class winners in the open.
Yeah, and I think it's just more prestigious as an athlete. I don't know, maybe this is just me, but like I think it's more prestigious to win a pro card that way than rather like a small show with so many pro cards. It's just, I don't know, you feel like you really earned it. Not that you haven't earned it if you won it a different way, but I just feel like there's a little bit more of that like sentiment, in that value behind it when they give out less.
Do you
Well,
think, Lexi, that the size of the Ben Weider is the result of them, announcing last year the pro bikini world was going to offer a path to the Olympia as a natural athlete?
That is a great question. Because I think about like my bikini girl that did it. I don't know exactly where she placed yet, but I know it was in first call outs, probably like 7 or 8. You know, we and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I mean, we didn't do this show and we also didn't do Pittsburgh out of a conversation of like, okay, now like the decision wasn't made because of
Okay.
that whole new bikini natural Olympia kind of route. So, but that's just one instance. But to be honest, I don't feel like I've had any natural bikini athletes that have really been drawn to Ben Weider or Pittsburgh Pro because of wanting to do the whole like turn pro and then go the natural bikini pro circuit route. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I just feel like there are still a lot of natural athletes out there who have some really incredible physiques that maybe they've been feeling a little discouraged by all the other shows that happen. And maybe that's just why they kind of all come out, maybe save themselves for the natural shows. And maybe that's why, this show was so much bigger. Maybe we didn't see a lot of those athletes over the summer because they didn't want to compete at the other national shows and they kind of wanted to save, you know,
Yeah.
it for this grand finale at the end of the year. And plus, it's not a bad time of year either because like, hey, if an athlete wanted to, and they were really close to getting their pro card, we have nationals in Texas here in a couple weeks. So it's not like there's nothing afterwards. So it's kind of advantageous in that way
I'm
too.
really curious.
especially for quick model, yeah.
What are your expectations for nationals?
I am really curious about that too. I guess we'll see when we get there, but I mean, it's notoriously a really pretty big show
Mhm.
despite it being, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I don't know, Paul, what do you think? I mean, how many athletes do you have doing it? I know at least two of your athletes doing it, but
I have two very good bikini competitors,
yeah.
and then I have, somewhere in the neighborhood of like five in the fit model,
Okay,
um,
okay.
which is it's probably a little bit less than me for normal. A couple years ago I had 13 when Christina and Tiffany turned pro the same day. Last year probably had like 10. So I don't know. It seems down. And I typically just pay attention to the shows around me, what's going on, and they've been pretty small NPC bikini wise. But with a national show, that doesn't mean anything because you could have a bunch of girls from last year or even from the beginning of this year that are just waiting.
Yeah, and I also I forgot that there is because I have a girl doing it. There's a show, the show that Freddie promotes. I think it's
Battle
just
of
Battle of
Texas.
Texas. That's the literally the weekend before, and I feel like that is always a huge show, and a lot of those same people go straight into nationals the next week because it's same spot. So I don't know. I'd love to see it be big, but we shall
Well,
see.
you have to be top two to qualify. So,
Yeah,
like, that show, I've seen that show have well over 100 bikini competitors, but the max that they can send is 16. So,
right.
I don't know. It just feels like people are, I don't know. I was expecting Ben Weider to not be so big. So now I'm expecting nationals to be big.
I hope it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Las
I know it will be
Colinas.
for the men's side.
Yeah, great venue, great. It's a really nice part of Dallas. Like Dallas is segmented in so many ways, but that Las Colinas area, the host hotel, it's all really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I haven't heard of a ton of female. I know a lot of fit model girls that are doing it. Of some bikini. I know there's a lot of open bodybuilders. A huge show when it comes to open bodybuilding for men. And I know a
Yeah.
large number of guys that are doing that side of it. And I think there will be a pretty decent transition between the girls that competed at the Ben Weider and Fit Model that will go to nationals because it is pretty close. And that is a division that, you can absolutely win a pro card as a natural athlete in without almost being enhanced is not necessarily a drawback, but could negatively affect you to some degree, at least on what they're rewarding currently. So I do think the fit model numbers there will be pretty large. The other numbers, I'm not sure. I was very surprised at the numbers here at the Ben Weider, and I'm sure Paul and Lexi, you've heard the same thing. Like, I've had a lot of girls do natural fit model shows, and they tell them afterwards, like, hey, you don't need to stick to the natural side of it. Like, you can do
Right.
any one of these pro qualifiers that you want to do, and that's a little bit different than a lot of the other divisions.
Yeah, I could definitely see a lot of the fit model girls from Ben Weider who maybe who are very close to getting their pro card. I could very easily see a lot of them just jumping right into nationals because again, I don't feel like for fit model you if you are natural that you have to exclusively do a natural show to be able to do well.
Yeah.
Well, I've been telling my fit model girls, literally the decisions are changing from week to week. So take the opportunity. If you're getting good feedback from the judges, keep going.
Yeah,
It's going to depend who shows up, and it's such a new division that we're having like it's not uncommon to have completely different lineup. Like from amateur Olympia to Ben Weider was a completely different lineup of competitors, right?
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think like I shared this on my story and I had so many people respond and they were like I needed to hear that. But like a great example too of like my client this past weekend, Ebony, the fit model pro card winner, she competed this past year at a couple of shows and she obviously brought a lot more of like a streamlined look going into Ben Weider, but even like some of the last shows she did back in the summer or late spring, she brought a pretty good package. Didn't place like terribly, but also didn't win first, didn't win an overall. And then yet she goes into this show and like, we did bring some improvements, but she won the overall. So I feel like you can see that too, where some competitors, gosh, they bring a package that they think is really great. Maybe they don't place super well, and then they go into another show a couple weeks later, refine things a little bit, polish things a little bit, and then they win. You can see that side of things too.
Mhm. I
Well, let's
mean,
talk a little bit about Ebony because she was, I don't want to say she was the shock of the show, but when I was doing the check-ins with them on Thursday at the gym, I immediately was like, whoa, when she hit her front pose, I'm like, man, shoulder width, tiny waist, just a really beautiful look to her physique. And I don't know if I texted you right away or said something like this girl could win the overall.
Yeah.
Um, So, and she, and I asked her, I was like, "Oh, when did you last compete?" She's like, "March." I was like, "Oh, so yeah." So tell us the
So
story of that.
she actually no, she did Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
She did
Okay.
do yeah, she did Pittsburgh, and so I want to say the weight difference between her Pittsburgh and the look she brought to Ben Weider, I'd have to look. I think it was 5 pounds. I think we were 5 pounds leaner. But yeah, her and I have been working together since I want to say February, I believe. And she actually hired me. Like she was talking to me at that point in her peak week. She did like a local show that weekend. She had prepped herself, and then we officially started after that show. And I want to say we did like one more regional show, maybe two, like local shows earlier on in the year in Fit Model. And that was also still the time though where like the shows were tiny for Fit Model. Like you were
Yeah.
seeing maybe one or two people in each class. And like I said before, she didn't do terrible at those shows, but she didn't get first and she didn't win an overall. And I think, a lot of times if you see somebody at a national show that wins their pro card and wins the overall, you would think like, oh, they've won several shows before, but that wasn't her case. And then yeah, we did do Pittsburgh, and she lives in like the around the DC area, or yeah, around the DC area. So the show Ben Weider, it was easy for her to get to. And she knew she wanted to do it right off the get-go after Pittsburgh. And so we took a couple of months to just kind of maintain, get her food up, had her train hard. Because from Pittsburgh, I really wanted to add a little bit more glute depth, just because that was our biggest issue. Like when she would walk, you'd see a little bit of movement in the glutes. And I just knew, wanted to get her a little bit tighter. So that's exactly what we did. And I also think something that's very advantageous for her is her stage presence and just her like just that it factor, because I think I told you, Paul, she has a pageant background. So she just has that like look
Mhm.
that you just see her on stage and you're like, whoa, like you want to watch, like a girl that you would see on stage for a pageant. It's that exact aura. So yeah, so I was really happy about that one, very happy for her. And yeah, Paul, you did text me when you were posing with her the day before, and I think your words exactly were, Ebony looks perfect. She will turn pro. And I was
Oh,
like,
really? Oh, cool.
yeah, I have that text, and I didn't send it to her that day because I didn't, I would never want to like send something to somebody like that and get their hopes up. But I ended up telling her that after she won her pro card. I was like, yeah, Paul told me the moment he saw you that you were going to be a star. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was awesome.
I know you said it to me like right after you got done posing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You just you see enough bodies, you go to enough shows, um, the landscape of the sport. And I got a message, I got a bunch of questions. I put a question box up, and one of the questions was, what was the difference in judging from the amateur Olympia to the Ben Weider? And my answer was literally nothing. No difference. First of all, Team Pro Physique won both overalls. Um,
Yeah.
so, and then also we took two pro cards at both shows, but the head judge was the same, right? And so that's a big part of this is like I've seen some big differences from judge to judge, especially Atlantic Coast to Ben Weider. I noticed some differences. So the girl that won the overall at Atlantic Coast, there was a girl in her class that I thought was going to win the overall. In the morning, I said, "Oh, there's your overall winner." She got second in her class to another girl that wins the overall. The girl that wins the overall was second call outs in fit model at Ben Weider. So, like, big difference, right? And I actually thought she looked better at the Ben Weider. I saw her, I said, oh, she got a little bit, her core is a little tighter. She looks, very pretty girl, nice structure, but no, just didn't quite fit.
Yeah. No, I will agree with that. I think I mean, we've seen a lot of fit model shows that where Bill's been the head judge, and I feel like there's not a difference in like what he's rewarding. He's very consistent with that. But I mean, you can even kind of see. So we had the Masters show in Vegas this past week in Vegas,
Yeah.
right? And even like that show compared to what was winning for fit model in at Ben Weider, I feel like there was a little bit of a difference there, but two totally different head judges too.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sandy should be at NPC National. So we'll be
Okay.
again,
Cool.
and this is why I have a couple girls doing it that I'm like, hey, let's just go and see because some judges are going to favor just a little more conditioning. Some judges are
Right.
going to favor a little more glute fullness. We've seen shows where like they threw that out the water and they just went with like the maybe the prettiest girl that looked good on stage. So it's it's definitely evolving, and it so much reminds me of the early years of bikini where they were just like struggling to like nail down a consistent judging criteria. Um, And something else I said, and you guys can tell me if you agree with this. Sometimes they just like somebody the best, and she's not as lean, not as muscular. Maybe she is leaner, maybe she's more muscular, but she just has that look, and they just kind of justify, okay, that's what I want today. And your feedback might not even be anything that if you would have changed, you would have beat that person. That person was just the better competitor that day. And so that's, as a coach, sometimes you just chalk it up to that. Like, yeah, that was just that person's day.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I feel like that comes down to sometimes just having that it factor, and that's not always something you can see when you're looking at pictures on NPC News Online. And that's why I always tell people, I mean, you can look at pictures online and, all day say, "Oh, I think this girl should have won," but that's just like literally a snapshot, a millisecond of that person on stage, and some people just have that it factor, and you can't really see that or witness that unless you were truly there in person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, the natural side of the sport is definitely ticking forward. Um, well, you wanted to talk a little bit about just what that means, Lexi.
Yeah, I think we should take a little bit of time, not that it needs to be like a long conversation, but I want to talk and address what is a natural competitor, because I've had some instances where I've been on consult calls with girls and, being a natural athlete, staying natural is very important to them, and they'll tell me that maybe a former coach was trying to push like things like peptides on them, and I'll tell them, I'll say, "Hey, you do know if you want to take peptides, which is fine, that you're not going to be a natural athlete anymore, or you're not going to be able to qualify to compete at natural shows." And a lot of them are like, "What? No, I didn't know that." So I feel like it's good to just clear up the air on that stuff, because I would hate for somebody who, let's just say they're a bikini athlete, they're natural, it's very important to them to stay natural. I would hate for them to take something by accident and then disqualify themselves from ever being able to compete, at a national or a natural show.
Well, the first thing that is not natural, despite what your doctor is having you do, is TRT. Now, most people are doing TRT for the benefits of hormone therapy just to be normal, right? So, if you're doing hormone therapy, it's to bring your levels up to a normal range so you can have a good quality of life. But that is not acceptable in the natural bodybuilding world. And when someone says to me, like, well, that's nonsense because it's a level playing field, I say, listen, there's a place for that. It's not as if there isn't two places. There is a place for people that don't want to be on stuff, and there's a people that so you can go compete in the NPC, no problem. If your gripe was I can never do a bodybuilding show because it's natural, then I would get your gripe. But you can go compete in the NPC. So yeah, that's just something that and understand that as a natural bodybuilder, myself, when I diet down, yes, my hormones get compromised. If I were to take TRT and keep them up, that is an advantage over another competitor. So is it cheating? It's not cheating at life, but if you're going to follow the rules of competing in a natural bodybuilding organization, yeah, you're not going to be able to do TRT, peptides, and some of the other things that are banned. The WADA list is kind of the Olympic standard that they kind of use. So there's some stuff on there that you can still take and be, consider yourself a natural athlete, but you got to follow the rules. You got to look it up and make sure you're following the rules.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can give
and
it.
I'll go for it, Evan.
I can give a perfect example of the TRT. I have a natural athlete that's very good. He's a freak of nature, and he gets his blood work done, and they drug test him afterwards, and his testosterone is about 100, which is for people that know the low end of normal is 4 to 500, and the high end of normal is 800 to 1,000. So if you're on TRT and you're at 1,000 or 1,200, you have a drastic advantage over someone that is dieted down in a natural state. A
Yeah.
drastic advantage. It is not a level playing field remotely the same. So that's just a prime example for people that want to argue with that. The numbers show very, very different when it comes to that.
Yep.
Yeah. And I also think another thing that I've had a couple clients bring this up to me, is like if you're on, let's say you have ADD, ADHD, let's say you're on something like Adderall, because I do believe it is on the banned substance list. don't quote me on that, but I believe it is. But I've just had a couple people reach out to me and they're concerned, like, oh my gosh, I am on this for a medical reason, and I'm worried it's gonna like, not allow me to qualify as a natural athlete. And I always just say too, when in doubt, like well ahead of time, don't do it the week before the show. Email the show promoter. And generally speaking, if you take something like Adderall and it's for a reason, like you are prescribed it for ADHD, as long as I think usually you have to just have like a doctor's note. If you send that to the promoter, they'll totally be okay with that. Now, I wouldn't wait until like peak week to do that. I would do it well ahead of time. But when in doubt, if you just need a little bit of clarity or peace of mind, reach out to the promoter, let them know, what your concerns are, and if they, they'll give you an answer, or if they need like a doctor's note, you have a little bit of time to prepare something like that.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. So the key is just inform yourself because, I saw a few athletes that weren't able to compete because they didn't pass the test. And the first part of the test is they just ask you questions point blank. And
Mm.
if you say you've done something, or then you don't even get to continue. That's it. And then if you lie, they do have the polygraph before. And I think that's, as a natural competitor myself, the Ben Weider show historically called itself a natural show, but did not behave like a natural show because a urine test shows very little. It
Yeah.
shows just what's currently in your system, which you can be on everything under the sun, but if you know how to time it right, you can pass a urine test. The polygraph, they can ask you questions that go far back as they want, 10 years, 7 years, 3 years, whatever they want. And they can get a sense if you're, being dishonest. And that's the big, deterrent, I think, for a lot of people is like, I'm lifetime natural. I get nervous to take that damn test.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
every client that I have that takes one, they'll just like text me afterwards and they're like, "Oh, I passed," but not that we think they wouldn't, but they're like, it's just so nerve-wracking, you know? And I do want to bring up too, because I have it in front of me. So if like there are penalties now for, I guess if they like find out that you're not natural. So it says first offense is a 1 year suspension, second offense is a 2 year suspension, and then the third offense is a lifetime suspension. I feel like that's kind of
Yeah.
wasteful almost.
Once you do a natural show and get outed as lying, just pack it in. Like
Oh,
that, like because I know bodybuilders from 10, 15 years ago that like, because there's multiple organizations, they would fail with one organization and then try to compete with another. Word travels fast. So yeah, it's not going to go well if you're failing tests. Some of the organizations even have on their website like a hall of shame when people come back with a failed test.
oh
Um,
my gosh, that's
I had
hilarious.
a competitor a couple of years ago at one of my shows that I promoted an OCB show, and she won the like figure or pro card, and then her drug test came back failed, and it was pretty drastically high for like testosterone and stuff. And so I called her and I said, "Hey, just so you know, I can't award you the pro card. You are your test levels are really high." She's like, "Well, I'm on TRT," and I was like, okay, I guess that's that. I guess you just wasted your time and energy. And then I was able to call the person that took second and let them know they were awarded the pro card. But that moment's gone. They didn't get to stand on the stage and get their picture taken. And, so I felt like that person kind of got robbed of that moment by someone that was deceitful.
Absolutely.
And she knew she wasn't even trying to be sneaky about it on the phone call. So I don't know how she got through the polygraph and what she expected to happen when she turned in her drug test.
Crazy. My only thought is maybe she just didn't associate TRT with being
Yeah.
hands. I don't know. And I honestly, like, I personally believe that coaches, like, I mean, I guess there are maybe some instances where the athlete does something unknowingly and they don't let their coach know. But I mean, I think if a coach knows and still puts an athlete in a show and tries to go down that loophole, they should very well still get like the same exact penalty.
It'd
I'll
be
tell you
very
what.
hard. You have to
I
get like
know.
some text messages or some emails.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. You don't want to have oof, that's a bad situation if you have a coach that's actively trying to deceive the organization.
Mm. And I'll tell you how I handle it too is I'll of course say like things like TRT and peptides that they're not allowed. And basically the water list is the list. But I tell everyone it is up to you to know what is banned and what is not banned. And I take that back to when I played football in college. They always said it is up to you. to know what you take and you put in your body. It is no one else's fault other than you. So if you take something, you put it in your body, you better damn well know it won't
Yeah.
make you fail a drug test because it ain't on us if you do.
Yep. That's the truth. Like it's I always tell athletes like they'll message me, "Hey, is core hard natural?" Yes, but check. You know,
Yep.
call if you're unsure, message the promoter. You know, because you don't want to be unsure. It just takes a quick second.
Yeah, and then now in today's day and age too, I don't know if this is already obvious, but like things like Ozempic, like those are also some people may not think of those as like steroids, but like that's also on the banned substance list. So you just have to be careful. And I think before you ever take anything, yeah, like you said, like you guys said, do your research, do your due diligence as an athlete, because once you take something, it's not like you can just reverse it and compete naturally. You're kind of out of that realm if you take something, even if it's just once.
And most sites too, and most organizations will say if it's okay with a doctor's prescription, with it's not. They pretty clearly state that. So it's for a medical reason, and it's issued by a doctor outside of TRT. There are some, some instances that, medications can be used and needed for a viable reason, but it's not for enhancing performance, right? Like there's a very big difference between taking a GLP-1 for your diabetes and taking a GLP-1 for appetite control, right? And
That's ultimately the spirit of drug-free bodybuilding, is you're
yes.
not taking something to either enhance your muscularity or your conditioning. Prescription diuretics are also banned, and
Mhm.
those are pretty commonly used with some coaches like, hey, take this diuretic. Well, if it's something like a dandelion root, you can use that. But if it's prescription, that is banned. So yeah, I don't know. It's as a natural athlete myself, still, it's pretty straightforward. You just stay away from stuff that hasn't been around long. Peptides are all the rage right now. They haven't been around long.
Yep.
Um, they're gonna
Yeah.
evolve, and they're gonna, especially the newer ones that they're kind of always, they're coming out with new formulas and new, intricacies with them. Those are probably always going to be on the banned list. So it's just
Right.
be aware that, if you start doing those things, you might have to take, I think right now it's a 3-year waiting list once you take some stuff.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it's three.
And
I was trying to look on the website to see if I could see it briefly, but it's not popping up. But I think it is three or five.
and fun fact about the diuretics thing, outside of Team U, diuretics are the only thing that was ever really banned from like the Olympia and pro bodybuilding as well as prescription diuretics. So if they're banned from that, or ever banned from that, they were going to be banned from any sort of natural
Yeah,
organization.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what kills me is, oh, gosh, I feel like this happens every year after like a big natural show like the Ben Weider. You always get people that are, and I mean, I know you even get this on your YouTube, Paul. You'll get people that are in the comments and, claiming, oh, gosh, shame on so and so for competing. She's clearly not natural, or he's clearly not natural. And it baffles me. It's like some people just don't want to accept that there really are hardworking athletes out there, which of course, that's part of the equation. But like, let's be honest, usually the best of the best, genetics is a big factor there too. But some people just don't, I feel like, want to accept that there are people out there that are genetic elites and they work their asses off. And it baffles me how many people want to be in the comments claiming that they think, somebody is not natural when they know nothing about that person besides just seeing them on social media.
Yeah, and I know it's tough to believe, but go step foot in like a college football locker room, and you know real damn quick that there are genetic freaks out there. Just not many of them do bodybuilding. Most of them make money doing other sports, and that's where you see them. They
Yeah.
do exist. They are not common, but they do exist out there. They do exist, and especially if they're going to compete in a natural organization and win. Come on now, guys. Like, what else do you want out of somebody at that point?
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, as amazing as they don't look enhanced. When you've been to some shows, right? It's because the best enhanced athletes were also would be the best natural athletes. They've just taken it to that next step. It's
Yeah.
not a
Point.
100% pharmacological sport. You don't take someone with shit genetics and put them on a bunch of drugs and they're great. You take someone with great genetics, put them on drugs, and they are Mr. Olympia. Um, and these are the best athletes in the world. So yeah, but I think whenever someone says stuff like that, especially like to me, you know, you're not natural or you're definitely on TRT. Listen, it's a compliment to some degree, but it's also just either they're insecure, they've taken some stuff and don't look very good, or they just haven't been around actual athletes. Like Evan and I grew up with an athletic background, playing sports in college, and when you see and notice things that just you're like, what? Wow, you just feel insignificant. And so you realize like they are out there. There are guys that can just wake up and bench 405 and they never benched before. They can run a 4.340. They never run a sprint before. You know, and it's just a part of the human condition. We accept that people can be 7 feet tall, but God forbid people have like 5% more muscle than average.
That's a
Right.
really good comparison there. Yeah.
It is. It's a great one. Yeah, I think that the people that just claim, oh gosh, so and so should be ashamed, they're not natural or whatnot. Like, I think it just stems from that person's own
Hmm.
insecurities, and they're just jealous. That's what it comes down to. Because like, hey, is it sometimes kind of annoying to think like, oh, there are people out there with some of the best genetics? Like, if only I had that. Yeah, it can be kind of annoying to think about, but you know what? Also, good for them. Like, why shouldn't I be happy for them and their success?
I mean, look, there's people that don't have to work that hard and look amazing. There's also people in school who don't have to study hard and have photographic memories and are super ultra smart. We get dealt the cards we're dealt, right? And everyone has strengths and everyone has weaknesses in it. And it's like I think that's a perfect comparison, Paul. We can accept people that are 7 feet tall. We can accept people have photographic memories, but we can't accept someone, can wake up in the morning and just be a better athlete than the rest of us.
Yeah.
There are and it's not a common thing, right? So it's not something you see every day walking down the street. But to say it doesn't exist is just ignorant. It's just ignorant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I was thinking, do you want to address, Paul, not that this goes along with like the natural topic, but you had a couple of really good questions. I know you were elaborating on your Instagram yesterday that people asked you about Fit Model. Was there any question or two questions you just want to like maybe end this podcast with that you'd like
Yeah,
to
you know,
mention?
the most common question I get is like, what are you noticing? What is the trend? And I feel like the trend the last couple shows has been pretty consistent. Like I'm getting an eye for the sport, right? Whereas early in the year, I was like, I'm curious what they're going to do here. Um, and I think just like every other division, what is the king of fit model right now is shape. If you've got a beautiful natural shape, it's going to go a long way on stage because you just got to stand there. You know, yeah, you can pose and you can twist, but you can't pose and twist. You know, if you take two people, put them side by side, the person that has the better natural shoulder width waist ratios, it's going to stand out. And that's, and there was a couple times this weekend, and actually, it's funny, one of the competitors messaged me for feedback. And I was like, oh, I remember you because when she walked out, I thought she might be the overall winner. She was in a green suit and had red hair, and just her front pose was
No.
killer.
Yeah, it was very
Like
good.
wow factor. Like you couldn't take your eyes off her. But when she turned around, she disappeared. It was one of those situations where it was like two different competitors. You almost had to like, wait, which one was that one? Conditioning just was not there. And so there is still some room for athletes to improve, but that shape, that shoulder tapering into a nice tight waist with a good wide stance. That's the other thing I'm really focusing on with my athletes is you want to be chest forward in that front pose. You don't want to be standing sideways. Like a lot of girls are like, "Oh, my waist looks tiny." I'm like, "Yeah, but you look like the letter I. We want to look
Yes.
like the letter S."
Yeah, or if you're going to twist your waist a little bit more to the side, you need to open up your chest more to the front, not
Yes.
turn your chest along with your waist. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree wholeheartedly with all of that. The shape and I also feel like the tiny waistline, and I'm not saying like having six pack washboard abs because I remember
No, I
being
wouldn't.
no,
No.
like that's not what I mean by saying tiny waist because I've seen girls at shows with a six pack abs get immediately moved out. But I'm saying
Yeah.
just like that really tight, tiny core that looks just like really tight. That is just something I've seen a lot of girls who are doing well in Fit Model have.
Yeah, I mean, the most impressive physique in Fit Model didn't win. I mean, me and Paul both know the one that was most impressive physique, like conditioning was a little bit over the top. Crazy impressive physique. She didn't win.
Hmm.
It's not the
Yeah.
division, but very impressive.
Yep. Yep. I mean, yeah, she had like obliques that were kind of, twitching, and when she faced the back, she had kind of tie-ins, and it was like and you never know. Like another judge might have been like, well, that's a little too much, but it's not over the line.
Yeah, I mean,
And
and she placed like was there second or third. She wasn't way
yeah,
outside the realm of
no,
it.
no, she was in the middle for a second, but they just kept turning her, and then they eventually moved her out for a girl that was a little softer and fuller. Um, and she was also really pretty,
Yeah,
really
Yeah,
pretty. And so, like, not for nothing, that's a part of this
matters.
fit model division. I mean,
I was just gonna
yeah.
say that. The glam. Like I feel like this is not a division where you want to like just go all out with the glam. And if you want to get hair extensions, get them. If you want to, spend a little bit more to get your makeup professionally done, do it. I feel like those things really matter, especially if you're going to go into shows like Ben Weider, where there's so many more athletes. The more you work your way up, the more challenging the show or the bigger the show, that's when those little things really do start to matter.
If there are two physiques and they are very similar, and one is, I hate to say it, is one is prettier than the other, the pretty one's going to get the nod in it. And I'm not going to say pretty, right? But the one who's taken the effort to put into it, that's the routine, it's the facial expressions, it's all of it. It's all of it. And all of that matters. It all, especially when you have 20 something girls in a class, right? And especially in division to where shape matters and conditioning is variable between athletes with that. When you have so many variables that play into it and so many different like looks, the shape matters, and you cannot skimp on hair, the makeup, the tan. You skimp on that, and you're gonna skimp yourself out of a placing for sure.
Well,
Yeah,
let's finish up with the question. The other question that I get all the time is, are bikini pros going to be successful switching to fit model?
I like it. I like it.
Because it's a loaded question because there's a big difference between a current bikini Olympian and someone that competed in Olympia 2 or 3 years ago and has like taken some time off from the sport.
Absolutely. And I was thinking the other day, and I don't know if you guys tell me if you agree or disagree with this, because, with bikini, there is a big difference between, amateurs and pros in terms of muscularity. And even like girls who just compete at a national show as an amateur bikini competitor compared to your girls who are, let's say, like active bikini pros. Like I feel like there's a little bit of a different level of muscularity there. So it makes me wonder, not that I think they're going to let pro fit model get overly muscular, but it makes me wonder, is there going to be a little bit of that like muscularity difference from amateur to pro? Not a ton, but just a little bit. It just makes me wonder because I think if so, there could be some current bikini pros that could try fit model and perhaps do decent if they come in just a little bit softer.
I
Yeah,
guess
I don't think we're not going to know until we see them. You can speculate all you want, but until you see them standing side by side, because not for nothing, but Ebony was muscular. She had round shoulders, full glutes, good
Mhm.
quads, but she also had like the softness of the shape to like back that up. Um, so yeah, I think, the question everyone's asking me is about Lana because Lana's announced her retirement from pro bikini, after two Olympias, and she had a great battle this weekend with Meg, and we took second, and our goal was to not do the bikini Olympia no matter what. She just wanted to end her career at the Ben Weider, so that was really fun, and could not be happier for Dylan and Megan. But yeah, like, what are we going to do? Well, obviously, we're not going to get leaner and bigger. We're gonna we're gonna make sure we fit the criteria. So if and when we do hit that stage, but I think that's what a lot of the competitors that were going down that pro bikini route, even girls that had gone to the Olympia, there is something like, I guess you could call it like Olympia fatigue. If you've gone to the Olympia two, three times and you haven't been in the first call out, you just start to question, what am I fighting for? You're working your butt off to get that qualification to go there. And it's quite, you guys have been to the pre-judging at the Olympia. It's 10 a.m., 11 a.m. on a, Saturday morning, and then your season's over in about 10 seconds when you're not in the top 10. You're not qualified for the next Olympia. You just got 30th or 20th or 50th, whatever. And it's like, okay, I did all that for an hour on stage at the Olympia, which is an honor. You got your tracksuit, you got to go to meet the Olympians. But if you're not moving up, I think a lot of those girls that have walked away are probably like, oh, wow, this might be my chance to continue competing.
I agree. I agree. I feel like as athletes, we all want, like we all get into the sport because we want, like, we're chasing something, right? That we feel like we could potentially get. It may take a while to get there, but we feel like we could potentially get it. So I could see why, girls who have been to the Olympia multiple times, if they're in the sea of 16, it does start to get a little disheartening, feeling like, all right, like, are my goals even realistic anymore? And then it takes like that competitive nature out of it. And so I feel like that fit model could be, what some girls think, oh gosh, maybe this is my opportunity to do very well, realistically. So that's a good point that you make with that.
Well, I'll tell
Yeah.
you, like, because people ask me, like, why does Lana not want to go back to the Bikini Olympia? Well, she's been to two. We know the rules of the game. She's not willing to jump on PEDs. That is the rule now. You have to be on PEDs to be successful at the Bikini Olympia. She's 32, doesn't want to do that, and respect. So she was going to retire completely and just focus on coaching and stuff like that. She's coming on board as a pro physique coach, and she's obviously doing great with the posing stuff. But then, like a shiny new horizon, it was like she said, "Can I be the best in the world at this new division?" Because not for nothing, when she first started competing 8 years ago, before she took, well, it was like 9 years ago now, she took a 7 year break before she came back. She was very good at bikini. She did two shows in California and won the overall in front of Sandy. And the two girls that she beat in the overall, she told me went to nationals the next week and turned pro. She didn't go because she couldn't afford it. This was like 2014, 2015. So she was fit model, right? So who's to say? Maybe we can, fit that criteria and it'd be a new chapter to her career. And to be fair, you don't have to get as shredded. You don't have to train as hard. For her, you don't have to train as hard. She's one of the genetically elite.
She's like
She's
good
not going to
looking.
have to
Yeah.
train as hard.
Well, and I've
And
even seen, like, I'm not gonna like call out any names because I'm not even like really thinking of anybody in like specific, but I've even seen, past bikini pros, or I say past, but bikini pros that just haven't competed in a while. Like once they come off of whatever PEDs they were on, and like a lot of times you will just notice they look a lot smaller. So I could like, and they don't, I mean, they still have shape and muscle, don't get me wrong, but they lose a lot of that size that they had when they were on everything. So it's like I could see those people honestly like
I
going in.
saw a girl this weekend, Lexie. No, last weekend. I was in Atlantic Coast Pro. I saw a girl that turned pro. She was in the overall at North Americans with Jess. So I remember her distinctly. I saw her a couple times, and then I saw her after the show. And I saw her Atlantic Coast Pro. I almost didn't recognize her. She must be off of everything. She looks so much smaller. And I was like, wow, like it really is a significant difference.
I mean,
It is.
especially the PEDs that these girls are on today, it's not just the smaller, but it's the hardness
Yeah.
Yeah.
that goes away. And a lot of these compounds that they're taking these days, which is not just Anavar, makes you hard. And when that gets pulled out, a lot of the softness does return. And I think a lot of people that are talking about like what's going to be rewarded next year and people that say they know what's going to be rewarded in the ProFit model are either naive or they're lying to themselves or they're trying to get attention because nobody knows. Nobody knows, just like no one knows what's going to be rewarded this year until you get Tyler and Sandy and Bill and all of them in a line and they all talk and decide what it's going to be together with them in front of them. None of us know. So stop acting like we know what's going to be rewarded because
The judges, if you're at the
Amen.
actual shows, you know, the judges will literally say, we're still figuring it out.
yep.
Yep. No, that was a total mic drop right there, Evan. I could not agree more with that. Yeah, people that are acting like they know exactly what's going to be rewarded next year for the profit model shows, like that's so silly to say. No one knows until it happens, yeah.
It's a lot of attention grabbing right now for people thinking they know what's going to be rewarded. And the truth is, if you've been around this long enough, if you've seen it long enough, if you've talked to these judges, then you know we don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know. We don't.
Yeah. And I think that's, some of this, for some athletes, because I think, you could also, you may have people out there that think, well, what, like, why would an athlete even want to compete as a pro if you don't know what is going to be rewarded? Well, I think honestly, going into next year, part of the fun is just going to be, gosh, it's the first year doing it. Like, it's kind of fun to just go as everybody's learning and to make history nonetheless. I think that's why a lot of girls are going to want to step on stage, and I know it can be kind of frustrating or annoying when you don't quite know what that mark needs to be yet. But I think there's also a little bit of fun in that too, of like, I don't know, let's just try something out, go into it, get feedback, and see how it goes.
I mean, and Paul's talked about this before, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Paul, but like Brooklyn, before she got her pro card, she competed in a lot of shows, and her placings varied greatly, and her look did not vary that greatly between the shows. It matters who you're in front of, who you're around, time and place, because they are figuring it out.
Yeah.
And And it's going to be the same thing. At least I feel like it's going to be the same thing when it comes to the pros next year. Because there's a whole new crop of different athletes that are coming in. And you can only compare about what's on stage currently. When you bring other athletes that look different with different shape, how's that going to go? When truth is, we don't know.
Yeah. What I'll say, what I do notice, what isn't going to fly is girls that are outside the norm with muscularity and conditioning.
Mhm.
They're not going, "Hey, you look pretty good. Let's put you." No, they're like, "Get out of here." Girls with like big shoulders and, tie-ins, any type of hardness in their quads, they're out.
Yeah, and like you I think one of you guys just said like fit model the physiques that are winning aren't always the most like jaw-dropping impressing looks from a muscularity standpoint, right? Like when you see girls on stage with big delts, awesome tie-ins, yeah, that's really freaking impressive, but those are not the physiques that are being rewarded in fit model.
And this was a big fit model show. You got a really good sampling, right? There was, I think, more than 20 in three of the four classes. And I think, which is really funny because class A is always the smallest class in fit model because I
Uh-huh.
think the fit model girls are a little taller and, so like the A has been the smallest class at most of the shows. I think in Junior USA's there was three in A.
Wow.
But at this show, I think there was like 15. And then there was like 20 in B and C and D.
Mhm.
Um, you know what? That might have been the largest fit model show of the year for a national show, for a pro qualifying show.
Almost 80 if there were like 20-ish per class.
Yeah, I can't. I wish the NPC News Online site was up because I love my data.
I
But I'll
know.
have that
I'm
soon.
surprised that I
Usually
had
comes out Wednesdays. It's Wednesdays for the pro is out. The NPC usually is a couple days later.
well, even for pro shows though, I mean, I know Ben Weider's a little bit different, but normally they get those pictures out a lot
Oh, those
quicker.
are out. Those are out the day of.
Okay,
Pro
okay.
pro are out day of.
Mhm.
The NPC is what I'm curious though because the data on like because I'm quite certain. I think the biggest show of the year this year for bikini was USA's at 120 total. I have to look on my sheet. But like amateur Olympia was like 60 and junior nationals was 80. So there's been some pretty low numbers for national shows.
Yeah. No, Ben Weider was yeah, it was awesome.
Well, you know what was really awesome? They put wellness after bikini
Yep.
because like I got to
Oh
leave.
my gosh, yes, I did see that. Yes.
That was really nice
That
because
was a blessing.
I actually got like an hour break because wellness is pretty big. So I got a break to go eat before finals. And then they pushed back finals because, Bill and the judges had been in that chair from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m.
Oh my gosh. And I
And
know,
when
and
people are like, oh, they're
I
taking a break, I'm like, dude, they have to have a life. These people were there for 10 hours straight.
I don't know how they do it. You know, it's funny because I remember at North Americans this past year, I remember it was kind of that same way where it was like bikini didn't finish until like 5 and then they turn around and go right into finals. And I remember seeing Bill Saturday morning because it was the show on no, I'm sorry, Sunday morning because the show was on Saturday and I didn't realize there was a whole Sunday show, right? And
Pro show, yeah.
I saw him Sunday morning in like the lobby and I remember telling him, I was like, first off, thank you. And I was just like, I don't know how you do it sitting there all day. I have so much respect for you. I hope you get to just relax a little bit today. And meanwhile, he's like chuckling. He's like, nope, I'm judging all day today too. And I'm like, oh goodness. Like I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
No, and to be fair, to their credit, for finals, they basically said no routines, awards, and overalls only. And it still took a couple hours. That's how
Yeah.
big the show was.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I'll be curious, like you said at the beginning of the episode, Paul, to see now, with Ben Weider numbers being where they were at, like what's NPC Nationals gonna look like here in two and a
Yeah.
half.
And they've already announced next year it's a 3-day show, Ben Weider.
Oh, okay.
Was it? Okay.
Well,
So I'm gonna get screwed a little bit because bikini's Friday, fit model Saturday.
oh, that
But
sucks.
let me tell you this. DC is a great city. So I will
Mhm.
stay that extra day on Sunday. By the way, they're doing all the pros on Sunday. So I think what they might do next year is allow the people that turn pro to compete as pros, which is
That'd be
always
cool.
cool.
That'd be
That
cool.
would be awesome. That
So
would
I
be
might be there for 3 days, but I will partake in some DC food and sightseeing.
good for you.
They'll probably swap it up if they do that in the pros on Sunday there. They'll probably swap it up men first and ladies the next day, and then the pros the next day, if I had to guess.
So they're keeping the schedule pretty much the same. Women on Friday, men on Saturday. The only difference is they're adding the fit model to the Saturday lineup. So because I think there was about half as many men as women, so they're just trying to like
Mike's
unload some of
okay.
that so that like Friday's not like 8 a.m. to midnight.
Mhm.
That was intense.
All day for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess, well, this will come out after Thanksgiving, so I hope everybody enjoyed Thanksgiving if you celebrate. And yeah, I think that's all I got. We still have Command the Stage tickets on sale for the March in 2026.
Yeah,
So,
we'll do a full podcast about that coming up. We've got a lot of like I feel like what's going to be really fun is when we get actually when nationals is done, and I think they're moving nationals forward. They moved Ben Weider forward a week.
oh,
I think they're going to try to get national. I'm hoping they're trying to get nationals back to where it used to be, which was this weekend, the
that's
weekend before
right. That's
Thanksgiving.
right. Yeah, which correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. I don't know if it's always been this way because I know I told you bikini, well, the girls for NPC Nationals are on Friday. Is it always that way or is it normally on
The
Saturday?
last couple of years, it's been that way.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Used to be a 2 day show when it was in Miami. You'd have prejudging on Friday, finals on Saturday.
I remember, yes, I do remember seeing that. Oh, that
It was
was,
annoying because if you're not in the top five, to come back and be like, let me put my hair and makeup on and walk across the stage because girls were afraid to miss. You know, they oh, it's not polite to
yeah,
not show.
yeah.
Um,
All right, cool. Well, yeah, we'll do a podcast on that. And as always, guys, if there's any podcast requests topic-wise, you can shoot me a DM and we can definitely implement that in a future episode. All right. Bye, guys.